Hello everyone, write in the comments where you are watching from and hit the subscribe button on your screen. They say life changes in an instant. For me, that instant came when I pressed my lips against hers, tasting expensive lipstick and desperation. I wasn't supposed to be in that elevator. She wasn't supposed to collapse. And I certainly wasn't supposed to perform rescue breathing on one of the wealthiest women in the country. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, especially for a single dad who cleans up after the privileged for minimum wage. My name is Daniel Wright, and until 6 weeks ago, I was just another invisible person keeping Archer Tower gleaming while struggling to raise my daughter on a janitor's salary. Now I'm something else entirely. The morning it happened started like any other. I kiss my sleeping 8-year-old daughter Lily's forehead before Ms. Patel from next door arrived to get her ready for school. The pre-dawn commute, the service entrance, the locker room where I changed into my grey uniform with maintenance stitched across the back. The weight of responsibility pressing down on my shoulders, heavier than any industrial vacuum I pushed across endless corporate floors. Right. Spill on 47. Some executive breakfast thing. Coffee and pastries everywhere. My supervisor, Hank, barely looked up from his clipboard. And they need it cleaned like yesterday. I grabbed my cart and headed for the service elevator, my mind wandering to Lily's upcoming science fair. She needed new materials for her project, which meant more overtime hours I didn't have the energy for. Since losing my wife to cancer 3 years ago, I'd been treading water financially and emotionally. The medical bills had taken everything, including our savings and our home. Now we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, Lily taking the bedroom while I slept on a pull-out couch. The service elevator was marked out of order, so I reluctantly took the main bank, something janitorial staff were discouraged from doing during business hours. I'd have to be quick and invisible, as usual. I pressed the button for 47, and just as the doors began to close, a woman's voice called out, "Hold the elevator, please." Without thinking, I stuck my arm out. The doors bounced back, and she rushed in, breathless. That's when I first saw Alexandra Archer in person. Everyone who worked in the tower knew of her. The 34-year-old tech genius and heiress who doubled her family's already massive fortune with a series of AI innovations. Her face was on business magazines, technology journals, and occasionally tabloids speculating about her intensely private personal life. In person, she was smaller than I expected. 5'5" at most, with dark hair swept into an elegant knot and eyes so intensely blue they seemed almost artificial. She wore a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than 6 months of my salary. "Thank you," she said, not really looking at me as she tapped at her phone. Her voice had a slight raspiness, like expensive whiskey. I nodded and pressed myself against the wall, trying to become part of the elevator's decor. The cart between us might as well have been the Grand Canyon. We passed floor 23 when I noticed something wrong. Her breathing had changed, becoming shallow and rapid. Her perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat, and the phone clattered to the floor. "Ms. Archer," I said, instinctively moving toward her. Her eyes widened in panic as she tried to speak. Nothing came out. Her hand went to her purse, desperately searching for something. "What is it? What's happening?" I asked, alarm rising in my voice. She mouthed a word. I couldn't understand. "Are you choking?" I asked, ready to perform the Heimlich. She shook her head, still clawing through her purse. Then she pointed to her throat, then made a stabbing motion. "Allergic reaction." I guessed. A frantic nod. She swayed, her knees buckling. I caught her before she hit the floor, easing her down. "EpiPen? Do you have an EpiPen?" I asked, my first aid training from the community center kicking in. Her eyes were beginning to roll back, her lips turning a terrifying shade of blue. She managed to whisper one word, "purse." I grabbed her designer bag, dumping the contents onto the elevator floor. Lipstick, wallet, keys, phone charger, no EpiPen. "It's not here," I shouted, panic tightening my chest. Her hand weakly clutched at my sleeve as her airways continued to close. I slammed the emergency stop button and grabbed the elevator phone, but all I got was an automated message about technical difficulties. Alexandra's breathing was now just a terrible wheezing. Her eyes locked with mine, terrified and pleading. In that moment, she wasn't a billionaire and I wasn't a janitor. She was just a human being dying in front of me. I remember the first aid instructor's words: if they can't breathe and help isn't coming, you need to keep their airways open and assist their breathing until professionals arrive. I tilted her head back, checked that her airway was clear, pinched her nose, and pressed my lips to hers, forcing air into her lungs. 1 breath, 2 breaths. Her chest rose slightly. I kept going. 3 breaths, 4. The taste of expensive coffee and vanilla lip balm mixed with the metallic tang of fear. Between breaths, I managed to hit the elevator call button. Help! Medical emergency on elevator 3. I don't know how long I kept breathing for her. Time stretched like taffy, each second an eternity of desperation. Her skin was clammy, her pulse weakening under my fingertips. I couldn't let her die. Not here, not like this, not while I could still help. Please, I whispered between breaths. My daughter already lost her mother. I can't have someone else die in my arms. Something changed after those words. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe she heard me, but Alexandra's body suddenly tensed. Her back arched, and she sucked in a strangled breath on her own. Then another. The elevator jerked back into motion, descending rapidly. When the doors opened on the lobby level, a team of security guards and what looked like private medical staff rushed in. I was pushed aside, my explanation drowned out by urgent professional voices. They administered an injection, placed her on a stretcher, and whisked her away, leaving me alone with the scattered contents of her purse and the lingering taste of near death on my lips. A security guard looked at me suspiciously. What happened? Allergic reaction, I said, still shaking. I performed rescue breathing. She couldn't find her EpiPen. And you are, his eyes narrowed at my maintenance uniform. Daniel Wright. I'm a janitor here. I was heading to clean a spill on 47 when. Wait here, he cut me off, speaking into his radio. I stood in the elevator, still stunned, as the medical team disappeared with Alexandra Archer through the private exit. I had no idea if she would survive, no idea what had triggered the reaction, no idea what would happen next. All I knew was that my lips had touched those of one of the richest women in America in a desperate attempt to keep her alive. And somehow, against all odds, it seemed to have worked. Little did I know that this single act of emergency intervention would completely upend my life and Lily's in ways I could never have imagined. Because what happened next wasn't just shocking, it was impossible. And that was just the beginning. Before I continue, kindly hit the subscribe button on your screen. The next 72 hours passed in a blur. Security questioned me for hours that first day, recording my statement 3 separate times as if hoping I'd contradict myself. They confiscated my phone and had me sign a stack of non-disclosure agreements before finally releasing me well past midnight. I missed Lily's bedtime, something I'd promised never to do after her mother died. When I arrived for my shift the following morning, Hank was waiting with his arms crossed. Right, what the hell happened yesterday? I can't talk about it, I said, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Legal made me sign. I know about the NDAs, he interrupted. The whole building's buzzing. They're saying you saved Alexandra Archer's life. I shrugged uncomfortably. I just did what anyone would do. Hank snorted. Well, whatever you did, you're wanted upstairs. 49th floor. The big office. My stomach dropped. The 49th floor was executive territory, a place where janitors went only after hours, never during business. Am I being fired? Fired? Are you kidding? Hank laughed. Just go. And right? Maybe straighten your tie. I didn't have a tie, just the standard issue grey uniform that smelled perpetually of industrial cleaner. With my heart hammering, I rode the service elevator to the 49th floor, where a stone-faced executive assistant escorted me through a maze of gleaming corridors. "Mr. Wright," she said, stopping before an imposing door, "Ms. Archer is still recovering, but Mr. Reynolds will see you now." James Reynolds. Alexandra Archer's right-hand man and the COO of Archer Industries. I'd seen his picture in the company newsletter but never imagined meeting him. The office was larger than my entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Reynolds stood with his back to me, hands clasped behind him as he gazed outward. "Daniel Wright," he said without turning. "The janitor who saved Alexandra Archer. I just helped until medical assistance arrived, sir." Reynolds turned, studying me with calculating eyes. "Our medical team says she would have died without your intervention. The allergic reaction was severe. Someone tampered with her morning coffee, adding almond extract. Alexandra has a lethal tree nut allergy." My blood ran cold. "Tampered? You mean someone tried to kill her?" "Yes." Reynolds gestured to a leather chair. "Please, sit." I perched awkwardly on the edge, aware of my uniform against the expensive leather. "We're investigating, of course." Very discreetly. Reynolds sat behind his desk. "But that's not why I called you here. Alexandra wants to thank you personally." "She's okay then?" "I've been worried." Something flickered across Reynolds' face, surprise, perhaps, that a janitor would genuinely care about the billionaire's well-being beyond potential reward. "She's recovering at her estate. She's asked that you join her for dinner tomorrow evening. With your daughter as well." I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" Alexandra was very specific. "She wants to thank both you and your daughter. A car will collect you at 6 tomorrow evening." He slid a business card across the desk. "My direct line. Call if you have any questions." "Mr. Reynolds, I don't think. You saved her life, Mr. Wright. Indulge her this small request." His tone made it clear the discussion was over. "Oh, and you've been reassigned. Effective immediately." My heart sank. Reassigned usually meant a less desirable position, basement duty or waste management. "Sir, I need this job." "My daughter." "You misunderstand," Reynolds interrupted, almost smiling. "You've been temporarily assigned as personal maintenance staff for Ms. Archer's office suite. It comes with a considerable pay increase. Consider it a promotion." I left Reynolds' office in a daze, clutching a folder containing details of my new position and a salary that made me check the decimal point twice. It didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. When I picked up Lily from school that afternoon, I struggled with how to explain our dinner invitation. "Daddy, are you in trouble?" she asked, her small face serious beneath her curly dark hair, so like her mother's. "Miss Patel said you were on TV." "TV?" I pulled out my phone to find dozens of missed calls and messages. One was a link to a news report: Archer Industries heiress suffers medical emergency, employee performs life-saving intervention. The footage showed the ambulance leaving Archer Tower, but thankfully, my name wasn't mentioned. "I'm not in trouble, sweetie," I assured her. "I helped someone who wasn't feeling well, and now she wants to thank us with dinner tomorrow." Lily's eyes widened. "Like a thank you dinner? At a restaurant?" "Not exactly. At her house." "Is she rich?" Lily asked with a child's directness. I laughed despite myself. "Yes, very. But that doesn't matter, okay? She's just a person who needs to breathe like everyone else." That night, after Lily fell asleep, I searched online for information about Alexandra Archer. Articles praised her business acumen and technological innovations, but personal details were scarce. Parents deceased in a plane crash 10 years ago. Never married. No children. Graduated MIT at 19. Intensely private. Rumored to be working on revolutionary AI systems. Estimated worth $28.7 billion. The number made me dizzy. I closed the browser, feeling like I was invading her privacy somehow. The following evening, precisely at 6, a sleek black car with tinted windows arrived at our apartment building. Lily wore her favorite blue dress, the one saved for special occasions, while I had dug out my only decent outfit, the navy slacks and white button-up I'd worn to my wife's funeral. The driver took us deep into the exclusive Westridge Hills area, eventually pulling up to a gated estate hidden behind walls and mature trees. Security scanned our ID at 2 checkpoints before we finally approached the house, though house seemed an inadequate word for the modernist glass and stone structure nestled into the hillside. A housekeeper greeted us and led us through a soaring entryway into a surprisingly cozy living room where a fire crackled in a stone hearth. And there, standing by the windows overlooking the twilight garden, was Alexandra Archer. She turned, and I nearly gasped. She looked nothing like the polished executive from the elevator. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, and she wore simple black pants with a soft blue sweater. But what shocked me most was her face, pale, yes, but alive with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. "Daniel," she said, her voice still carrying that slight rasp. "And you must be Lily." My daughter, usually shy with strangers, stepped forward confidently. "Did my daddy really save your life?" Alexandra knelt to Lily's level, something I'd never imagined a billionaire doing. "He absolutely did. I couldn't breathe, and he helped me until I could again." Lily nodded solemnly. "My mom couldn't breathe anymore, and the doctors couldn't help her. I'm glad Daddy could help you." The room fell silent. Alexandra's eyes met mine over Lily's head, a world of understanding passing between us. "I'm very sorry about your mom," she said softly to Lily. "And very grateful to your father." She stood, but as she did, something extraordinary happened. A slight tremor ran through her body, and for just a moment, so brief I thought I'd imagined it, her eyes flashed with an electric blue light that illuminated her entire iris. I stumbled backward. "Your eyes?" Alexandra quickly turned away. "Dinner should be ready. Shall we?" As we followed her to the dining room, my mind raced. What had I just seen? A trick of the light? A side effect of her medication? But deep down, I knew it was something else. Something impossible. Something that would explain why, since performing rescue breathing on Alexandra Archer, I'd been experiencing strange flashes of insight, moments of inexplicable knowledge, and dreams filled with binary code I somehow understood upon waking. Whatever had passed between us in that elevator wasn't just oxygen. And I had a feeling that dinner was going to reveal secrets I wasn't prepared to learn. Dinner with a billionaire should have been intimidating. Instead, it felt strangely familiar, as if Alexandra and I were reconnecting rather than meeting properly for the first time. She engaged Lily in conversation about her science project, a model demonstrating how bees communicate through movement, with genuine interest that had my daughter chattering excitedly. "So you're simulating the waggle dance?" Alexandra asked, leaning forward. "That's fascinatingly complex biomechanical communication." Lily beamed. "Most kids are doing volcanoes, but bees are cooler. They talk with their bodies." "They certainly do," Alexandra smiled, then winced slightly, pressing her fingers to her temple. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Just a headache. They've been frequent since." She glanced at Lily, then back to me meaningfully. "Since the incident." The meal was served by staff who appeared and disappeared with practiced invisibility, a strange mirror to my own work experience. As we finished dessert, Alexandra turned to Lily. "Would you like to see something special? I have a greenhouse with a butterfly pavilion. Maria can show you." As if on cue, the housekeeper appeared. Lily looked to me for permission, practically bouncing in her seat. "Go ahead," I said. "But remember. Look with my eyes, not my hands," she finished, rolling her eyes before following Maria out. Once alone, the atmosphere shifted. Alexandra's carefully maintained smile faded, replaced by an intensity that made the hair on my arms rise. "We need to talk about what happened in the elevator," she said, her voice low. "About what's happening to you now?" My pulse quickened. You mean the dreams? The knowledge I shouldn't have. She nodded, unsurprised. What exactly are you experiencing? I hesitated, then decided on honesty. Computer code I somehow understand. Bursts of insight about technologies I've never studied. Yesterday, I fixed my neighbor's router by reconfiguring settings I didn't know existed before I touched it. And I swallowed hard. I keep seeing flashes of memories that aren't mine. A laboratory. A procedure. Pain. Alexandra closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked both relieved and terrified. I wasn't sure it had transferred. The symptoms could have been coincidence. She leaned forward. Daniel, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen without interruption. She took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I developed a neural interface technology, a way to connect the human brain directly to artificial intelligence systems. The potential applications were revolutionary: instant knowledge transfer, enhanced cognitive abilities, medical breakthroughs. Like a computer in your brain? I asked, thinking of the science fiction movies Lily and I sometimes watched. Much more integrated than that. The system uses nanits, microscopic robots that create a secondary neural network overlaid on the biological one. They are self-replicating, powered by the body's own electrical impulses. My mouth went dry. And you put this inside yourself? I became my own test subject, yes. The potential benefits outweighed the risks. She touched her temple again. The Archer Neural Interface, ANI, has been part of me for years now. It's why our company has made such technological leaps. But what does this have to do with me? I asked, though deep down, I already knew. The nanits can transfer through bodily fluids, she said bluntly. When you performed rescue breathing, my system was in distress. The nanits, programmed for self-preservation, sought a new host environment. You. The room seemed to tilt. You're saying I have these robots in me now? In my brain? A partial transfer, at most. Maybe 10% of my system, based on your symptoms. She looked genuinely apologetic. I never anticipated this scenario. The technology isn't even supposed to be transferable. Can you remove them? I asked, panic rising. It's not that simple. They integrate with neural pathways. Removal could cause significant damage. She hesitated. But I can help you manage it. Train you. I stood up, needing distance. This is insane. I'm a janitor, not a tech experiment. I have a daughter who needs me functional. Normal. Normal is no longer an option, Daniel, she said quietly. And there's another complication. Another, I laughed bitterly. What could possibly complicate this further? The assassination attempt wasn't random. Someone knows about ANI. They're trying to prevent what I'm developing next, a true human-AI symbiosis that could change everything about how we evolve as a species. She stood, joining me by the window. The nanits in you are fragments of my system, but they're evolving, adapting to your unique neural patterns. They contain classified information worth billions, maybe trillions. Making me what? A target. Alexandra touched my arm, and instantly, that strange connection flared, images flooding my mind. Laboratories, complex equations, faces of people I'd never met discussing things I couldn't comprehend. Her memories, flowing into me like water. She pulled away, her eyes flashing that eerie blue again. I'm sorry. The connection is strengthening between us. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. None of this was supposed to happen. I snapped. I was just trying to help someone who couldn't breathe. And I'm grateful, she said softly. But now I need to help you. We're connected, Daniel. What's happening to you is my responsibility. Before I could respond, the door opened and Lily bounded in, excitement radiating from her. Daddy! Miss Alexandra has butterflies that glow in the dark. She engineered them herself. Can we come back tomorrow? Please? Alexandra's demeanor transformed instantly, her public persona slipping back into place. Actually, I was hoping you and your father might consider staying here for a while. Here? Lily gasped, eyes wide. Like, living here? I stiffened. That's not necessary. It is, Alexandra cut in, her voice pleasant but firm. For security reasons. My team detected unusual surveillance around your apartment building this morning. Ice flooded my veins. Someone's watching us? She nodded almost imperceptibly. Can we, Daddy? Please? Lily was practically vibrating with excitement. My school's on spring break next week anyway. Trapped between my daughter's enthusiasm and the veiled warning in Alexandra's eyes, I found myself nodding. Maybe just for a little while. Wonderful. Alexandra smiled. I've already had rooms prepared. Maria can bring your essentials over tonight. As Lily chatted about which toys she wanted brought over, I caught Alexandra watching me with an unreadable expression. We were bound now, this billionaire genius and me, by something more complex than gratitude or obligation. Something flowing in my veins and rewiring my brain. That night, installed in a guest suite larger than our entire apartment, I couldn't sleep. I stood on the balcony overlooking Alexandra's vast property, the security perimeter barely visible in the darkness. I wondered if we were being protected or contained. A soft knock at the door startled me. Alexandra stood there, her hair pulled back, wearing simple silk pajamas. I thought you might have questions, she said. Or trouble sleeping. Both, I admitted. She entered, keeping a careful distance. The first week is the worst. The neural pathways are still forming. The dreams, they're my memories integrating with your consciousness. Will it hurt Lily if I'm near her? Could she get infected too? Alexandra shook her head. No. The transfer required intensive fluid exchange in a moment of systemic stress. Normal contact is safe. I nodded, relieved. Who's trying to kill you? And now possibly us? Multiple suspects. Competitors. Government agencies. Former colleagues who think I've gone too far. She sighed. Daniel, what I'm creating isn't just technology. It's the next phase of human evolution. And what am I in all this? Collateral damage. She stepped closer, and against my better judgment, I didn't back away. You're an unexpected variable. An ordinary man performing an extraordinary act of kindness who now shares a piece of the most advanced technology on the planet. Her eyes searched mine. Perhaps you're exactly what this project needed. What does that mean? Instead of answering, she reached out slowly, telegraphing her movement. Her fingertips touched my cheek, and the connection burst open between us again, stronger this time, more controlled. I gasped as information flowed, but not just data. Emotions. Loneliness. Determination. Fear. When she broke contact, we were both breathing hard. What just happened? I whispered. The interface is evolving, she said, wonder and concern mingling in her voice. It's creating a bridge between us. Something I never designed it to do. As she stepped back toward the door, her eyes flashed blue again, and without thinking, I reached for her hand. To my shock, I felt something respond inside me, a warm pulse behind my eyes that I somehow knew meant my eyes had flashed too. Alexandra froze, staring. Impossible, she breathed. The nanits are replicating in you. Faster than they should be able to. The implications hung between us, unspoken but clear. Whatever was happening wasn't following her careful science. It was something new. Something neither of us understood. And something that might get us both killed. Days blended together in Alexandra's estate, a surreal bubble disconnected from my former life. Each morning, I woke expecting to find myself back in our cramped apartment, needing to rush to catch the early bus to Archer Tower. Instead, I'd open my eyes to Egyptian cotton sheets and sunlight streaming through windows overlooking manicured gardens where Lily now spent hours exploring. She was thriving here, utterly unfazed by our sudden change in circumstances. Alexandra had arranged for a private tutor to help with her schoolwork and had transformed a sunny room into a miniature science lab where they worked together on an enhanced version of Lily's bee project. My daughter was blossoming under the attention of this brilliant woman who spoke to her like an equal. I, meanwhile, was undergoing an education of my own. Focus on the interface, Alexandra instructed during our third training session in her private lab. Don't try to control it. Think of it as asking a question rather than demanding an answer. I closed my eyes, feeling the now familiar warmth behind my eyelids. The nanite had continued replicating, now covering approximately 30% of my neural pathways according to Alexandra's scans. Each day brought new abilities, new challenges, and new headaches, both literal and figurative. I need access to the building schematic, I said aloud, directing my thoughts toward the strange second consciousness I could now feel within my mind. Information flowed immediately, blueprints of Alexandra's lab unfurling behind my eyes like a digital blueprint, complete with security systems, ventilation ducts, and hidden access panels I'd never noticed before. Good, Alexandra murmured, monitoring my brainwaves on a nearby screen. Now try accessing something more complex. Something you shouldn't know. I hesitated. Like what? The ANI project files. Level 5 security. I frowned. You want me to hack your own security? I want to see if you can, she replied calmly. The nanite shouldn't have transferred that level of access. Closing my eyes again, I directed my thoughts toward what little I knew about her classified research. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, like a dam breaking, information cascaded through my consciousness, technical schematics, research journals, video logs of experiments. I gasped as equations I couldn't possibly understand nonetheless made perfect sense. Daniel. Alexandra's voice sounded distant. What are you seeing? Everything, I whispered, overwhelmed. Project Prometheus. The government contracts. The human trials that failed before you. I opened my eyes, staring at her in shock. You weren't the first test subject. Alexandra's face paled. That's classified beyond level 5. You shouldn't be able to access that. But I can. I stood, suddenly uneasy. The nanites aren't just replicating, they're evolving. Becoming something different in me than they were in you. She approached cautiously, medical scanner in hand. May I? I nodded, and she pressed the device to my temple. Numbers flashed across the screen, prompting a sharp intake of breath. This is impossible, she muttered. The integration rate has doubled since yesterday. And these patterns? She looked up, meeting my eyes. They're completely novel. What does that mean? Before she could answer, an alarm blared throughout the building. Alexandra grabbed her tablet, fingers flying across the surface. Security breach, she said, voice tight. Multiple entry points. We need to move. Now. We rushed from the lab, Alexandra's fingers pressing against a hidden panel that sealed the door behind us. We need to get to Lily, I said, panic surging through me. She's with Maria in the East Wing. We'll go together. Alexandra led me through a corridor I'd never seen before. This is a secure passage. It connects all major sections of the house. As we hurried through the dimly lit tunnel, I felt a strange prickling sensation at the base of my skull. Someone's accessing the security system, I said, the knowledge simply appearing in my mind. They're overriding the protocols. Alexandra glanced at me sharply. Can you see who? I closed my eyes, letting the interface guide me. Department of Defense security credentials, but they're forged. This isn't a government operation. Images flashed through my mind, men in tactical gear entering the grounds, weapons raised. 12 intruders. Military training. They're after. My eyes snapped open. They're after both of us. They know about the transfer. Alexandra cursed under her breath. We need to get to the panic room. It's designed to block all signals, protect the ANI system from outside interference. We emerged into a hallway near the east wing, only to freeze at the sound of boots on marble. Alexandra pulled me into an alcove as 3 armed figures passed by, their faces hidden behind tactical masks. "Where's Lily?" I whispered, terror clawing at my throat. Alexandra closed her eyes briefly. "I can't access the house system anymore. They've cut me off." Desperation pushed me to try something new. I reached for Alexandra's hand, establishing the connection that had grown stronger each time we touched. The blue glow illuminated both our eyes as our interfaces synchronized. Through her, I could suddenly access systems that had been blocked. Security cameras flickered in my mind's eye until I found what I was looking for: Lily and Maria hiding in a storage closet near the greenhouse, Maria's hand covering Lily's mouth as armed figures swept past their hiding place. "I can see them," I whispered. "They're safe for now, but there are intruders nearby." Alexandra squeezed my hand. "This connection, it's creating a network they can't detect. Daniel, I think together we might be able to." A voice called out from the end of the hallway. "Alexandra Archer. Daniel Wright. We have the building surrounded. Surrender now and no one will be harmed." I recognized that voice from Alexandra's memories. "Harrison Wells," I breathed. "Your former research partner." Alexandra's jaw tightened. "He thinks ANI is too dangerous. That I've gone too far. He tried to kill you," I reminded her. "And now he wants both of us." She looked at me intently. "The partial transfer shouldn't have worked, Daniel. The nanites should have died outside my system. The fact that they not only survived but thrived in you, it changes everything about what we thought was possible." Footsteps approached our hiding place. We had seconds at most. "We need to get to Lily and reach the panic room," I said. "Can you guide me there through the connection?" Alexandra nodded. "But we'll need a distraction." I took a deep breath, focusing on the interface, asking it to show me the house's systems. Suddenly, I could see them all: electricity, water, security, everything laid out like a complex 3D model in my mind. "I can do better than a distraction," I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. I closed my eyes, reaching through the nanites to connect with the house's automated systems. With a thought, I triggered the fire suppression system in the west wing, sending the intruders scrambling in confusion. Another thought disabled the lights in all areas except the path we needed to take. Alexandra stared at me in amazement. "How did you do that? Even I can't interface with external systems that directly." "I don't know," I admitted. "It just makes sense now." We moved quickly through the darkened hallways, guided by the blueprint in my mind. As we neared the greenhouse, I sensed movement ahead, 2 guards approaching the storage closet where Lily was hiding. Without thinking, I reached out with my mind, connecting to the sprinkler system directly above them. Water erupted downward, momentarily blinding them. In that instant of confusion, Alexandra moved with unexpected speed, disabling both men with precise strikes that spoke of extensive training I hadn't known she possessed. We reached the closet, finding Lily wide-eyed but unharmed with Maria protectively wrapped around her. "Daddy!" Lily cried, throwing herself into my arms. "It's okay, sweetheart," I soothed, though nothing about this situation was okay. "We need to move quickly and quietly. Like a game of hide and seek, but no talking." She nodded solemnly, fear and excitement warring in her expression. We moved as a unit through the darkened house, avoiding the search parties I could now track through my strange new awareness. The panic room was located beneath the library, accessed through a hidden panel behind a bookcase that responded to Alexandra's biometric signature. We were almost there when Harrison Wells himself stepped out of the shadows, flanked by 4 armed guards. His silver hair and distinguished features matched the images from Alexandra's memories, though his expression was harder than I'd seen it there. "Alexandra," he said, his voice almost sorrowful. "You know this has to end. The ANI project is too dangerous. What's happening with him, he gestured at me, proves everything I warned you about. You tried to kill me, Harry, Alexandra replied coldly. That's not the action of someone concerned about ethics. An unfortunate necessity, he said, his eyes shifting to me. Though it seems it created an even bigger problem. The spontaneous transfer should have been impossible. His gaze lowered to Lily, and I instinctively pushed her behind me. The child complicates things, he said. But we can ensure she's taken care of. You're not touching my daughter, I growled, feeling the interface responding to my surge of protective rage, the blue glow intensifying behind my eyes. Wells took a step back, genuine fear flashing across his face. My God, the integration is accelerating. Alexandra, look at his eyes, this is beyond anything we predicted. Alexandra moved closer to me, her shoulder touching mine. I felt our interfaces connecting, power building between us like an electrical storm. This isn't about safety, Harry, she said. It's about control. You couldn't stand that I succeeded where you failed. You have no idea what you've created, Wells replied, raising his hand to signal his men. I'm sorry it came to this. As the guards raised their weapons, I felt something extraordinary happen. The connection between Alexandra and me surged, our synchronized interfaces reaching out to the electronic components in the weapons themselves. With a shared thought, we disabled every gun in the room simultaneously. Wells stared in disbelief as his men frantically checked their now useless weapons. That's impossible, he whispered. The interface can't affect external electronics without a direct neural link. It seems there's a lot about this technology you don't understand, Alexandra said, her voice steady despite the strain I could feel through our connection. What happened next occurred so quickly I barely had time to process it. One of Wells' men pulled a non-electronic backup weapon, a combat knife, and lunged toward Alexandra. I pushed her aside, the blade slicing across my forearm instead of her throat. Blood, my blood, now infused with nanits, sprayed across Wells' face as he stood too close to the struggle. He recoiled, wiping at his eyes, but not before several droplets had entered his mouth and nose. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. Wells screamed, falling to his knees as blue light erupted from his eyes, nose, and mouth. His body convulsed violently as the nanits invaded his system, unprepared for the sudden intrusion. What's happening to him? I shouted over his agonized screams. Alexandra's face had gone chalk white. The nanits, they're trying to integrate, but his system is rejecting them. His neural pathways can't adapt to the sudden invasion. Wells collapsed, his body still twitching, blue light pulsing beneath his skin in sickening waves. His men backed away in terror, their weapons forgotten. In the moment of chaos, Alexandra grabbed my uninjured arm. The panic room. Now! We ran, Lily clutched against my chest, the sounds of confusion echoing behind us. The bookcase swung open at Alexandra's touch, revealing a steel door that hissed open. We tumbled inside, the door sealing automatically behind us. The panic room was a technological fortress, screens covered one wall, showing feeds from security cameras throughout the property. I watched in horror as Wells' men dragged his still convulsing body toward their vehicles, retreat clearly their only concern now. Will he survive? I asked, setting Lily down on a small couch where Maria immediately wrapped her in a shock blanket. Alexandra's eyes were fixed on the screens. I don't know. The nanits were calibrated specifically for my neural patterns, then adapted to yours gradually. An uninitiated system can't handle the shock. She turned to me, her expression grave. But if he does survive? She didn't need to finish the thought. If Wells survived, the nanits would integrate somehow. He would gain access to the very technology he feared, along with all the classified information it contained. And based on what had just happened to him, he would now have even more reason to want us dead. I looked down at my bleeding arm, watching with a strange detachment as the wound began to seal itself, the nanits accelerating my body's natural healing process. What have we become, Alexandra? I whispered. She had no answer, her eyes glowing faintly blue in the dim light of our high-tech prison. Behind us, Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Daddy?" "Your eyes look like Ms. Alexandra's now." She didn't sound frightened, just curious. "Are you going to be a superhero like in the movies?" The innocence of her question against the nightmare of our situation nearly broke me. I knelt before her, forcing a smile. "I don't know what I'm going to be, sweetie. But I promise I'll always be your dad first." As I held her close, I caught Alexandra watching us, something unreadable in her expression. Whatever happened next, whatever we had started or become, there was no going back. The technology that now linked us had escaped, evolving beyond its creator's intentions. And I had a terrible feeling that evolution was just beginning. 3 days in a panic room with an 8-year-old, even one as well-designed as Alexandra's, tests the limits of parental patience. By the third morning, Lily had exhausted the emergency entertainment options and was conducting elaborate experiments involving the limited food supplies. "If we mix the powdered milk with the instant coffee and the emergency chocolate, do you think it makes mocha?" she asked, stirring the concoction with serious concentration. Under normal circumstances, I would have stopped her. Instead, I watched from across the room where Alexandra and I sat huddled over screens, monitoring the situation outside. Wells' men had retreated, but government vehicles had arrived within hours, black SUVs with tinted windows and no identifying markings. Defense Intelligence Agency, Alexandra had identified without needing to see any insignia. "They've been watching the ANI project for years. Are they here to help or contain us?" I'd asked. Her silence had been answer enough. Now, as Lily played scientist with our rations, Alexandra's fingers flew across keyboards, her interface connecting directly with the panic room's systems. "They've set up a perimeter, but they haven't attempted entry," she murmured. "They're waiting for something." "Or someone," I suggested. "Wells?" She nodded grimly. "If he survived, they'll want to evaluate what happened to him. If the nanite successfully integrated." I didn't need her to finish. If Wells had survived the chaotic nanite transfer, he'd become like us, connected to a technology the government would be desperate to control. I touched my arm where the knife wound had been. Not even a scar remained after just 3 days. The nanites had completely rewritten my body's healing capabilities, along with so much else. "We can't stay here indefinitely," I said, glancing at Lily. "She needs sunlight, proper food, normalcy." Alexandra's expression softened as she watched my daughter. During our confinement, a genuine bond had formed between them. Lily peppered Alexandra with endless questions about science, technology, and being a girl boss, as she put it. To my surprise, Alexandra answered each one with patience and thoughtfulness. "I've been working on something," she said quietly. "A way out that they won't anticipate." She turned the screen toward me, showing what appeared to be architectural plans for a tunnel system. "The original owner of this property was rather paranoid," she explained. "There's a secondary escape route that doesn't appear in any official blueprints. It leads to a maintenance bunker with a vehicle." Hope flickered to life. "They won't be watching for it. It's not on any plans they could access." She hesitated. "But Daniel, if we leave, if we escape, what happens next isn't just about evading capture. It's about what we do with what we've become." I understood her meaning immediately. The technology we now shared had implications far beyond our personal safety. In the wrong hands, whether government agencies or private interests, it could be weaponized in terrifying ways. In the right hands. "You still believe in Project Prometheus?" I said. "Not a question." Her eyes met mine. "I believe that human and artificial intelligence can evolve together into something remarkable. I always saw it as the next step in human evolution." She gestured between us. "What's happened between us, it wasn't planned, but it's proving my theory in ways I never anticipated." I thought about the growing connection between us, how our interfaces seemed to strengthen each other, creating capabilities neither of us had possessed individually. During our time in the panic room, we discovered we could share thoughts directly when in physical contact, could process information collectively at speeds that seemed impossible. "And what about Lily?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. What kind of life can I give her now? Always running, always hiding? She deserves better. Alexandra reached out, placing her hand over mine. The now familiar connection blossomed between us, but gentler this time, less information, more emotion. I felt her concern, her determination, and something else that made my breath catch, affection. Not just for Lily, but for me. We'll protect her, Alexandra promised. Together. A soft alert chimed from the main console. Alexandra pulled her hand away, checking the notification. They've brought Wells back to the property, she said, her voice tight. And based on these readings, the nanits integrated successfully. We watched on the security feed as a medical transport delivered a stretcher to the front entrance. Wells lay strapped down, medical equipment surrounding him. Even through the grainy footage, I could see the telltale blue glow emanating faintly from his eyes. He's conscious, I said. And based on how they have him restrained, he's already displaying abilities. Alexandra nodded grimly. We need to leave. Now. She turned to Maria, who had been quietly supporting us throughout our confinement. Maria, gather emergency supplies for Lily. We're evacuating. As Maria helped Lily pack a small backpack of essentials, Alexandra led me to what appeared to be a solid wall. She placed her palm against it, and a section slid silently open, revealing a narrow passage. This will take us beneath the property boundary, she explained. There's a maintenance bunker with an unmarked vehicle, emergency cache, and new identities I prepared years ago. Trust fund paranoia has its benefits. I called Lily over, kneeling to her level. We need to go on an adventure, sweetie. Like in your spy movies. We need to be very quiet and follow Ms. Alexandra exactly, okay? Lily nodded, eyes wide with excitement rather than fear. Are the bad guys still trying to get us? Some people don't understand what's happening, I explained carefully. They're afraid, and when people are afraid, they sometimes do things they shouldn't. Like when Jamie pushed me on the playground because he was scared of my B facts. I smiled despite everything. Something like that. Ready? She nodded, slipping her small hand into mine. I felt a surge of love so powerful it nearly overwhelmed me. Whatever I had become, whatever future awaited us, my dedication to her remained my core truth. We moved through the narrow tunnel in single file, Alexandra leading with a small flashlight, me behind her holding Lily's hand, and Maria bringing up the rear. The passage was dusty and clearly unused for years, spider webs brushing against my face as we descended deeper beneath the property. After what felt like an eternity of claustrophobic darkness, we reached a heavy metal door. Alexandra pressed her palm against a scanner, but nothing happened. Power's out in this section, she muttered. We'll have to open it manually. She and I pushed against the rusted mechanism, straining until finally it gave way with a groaning protest. Beyond lay a small concrete bunker containing an unassuming sedan with tinted windows and, as promised, supplies for a quick escape. I'll drive, Alexandra said, already moving toward the vehicle. There's a service road that connects to the highway without passing any of the checkpoints they've established. As we loaded our meager belongings, a strange sensation prickled at the base of my skull. I froze, recognizing the feeling, the interface warning me of danger. Alexandra, I said quietly. We're not alone. She straightened, her eyes meeting mine across the car roof. Through our connection, I felt her awareness expand, searching the bunker. Then I felt her alarm spike. Behind us, she whispered. Multiple signatures. I turned slowly to find 6 armed figures emerging from the tunnel we'd just traversed, weapons raised. At their center stood Harrison Wells, unrestrained now, his eyes pulsing with the same blue glow as ours. But his seemed wrong somehow, erratic, unstable. Did you really think I wouldn't know about your escape routes, Alexandra? He said, his voice oddly distorted. I helped design your security systems, remember? I pushed Lily behind me, shielding her with my body. Stay back, Wells. You don't want to do this. He laughed, the sound sending chills down my spine. You have no idea what I want, Janitor. Or what I'm becoming. He tapped his temple. The nanits are enlightening. Painful, yes, but revealing truths I never imagined. His gaze shifted to Alexandra. You were right about the potential, but wrong about the application. This technology doesn't belong to humanity, it belongs to the new species it will create. Those of us who survive the integration will become something beyond human. The integration is destroying your mind, Alexandra said calmly. The nanits weren't calibrated for your neural pathways. The process should be gradual, controlled. What's happening to you is chaotic. Wells smiled, blue light leaking from the corners of his mouth. Chaos is necessary for evolution. Surely a scientist like you understands that. He took a step forward, and his armed escorts moved with him in perfect synchronization. With a jolt, I realized he was controlling them somehow, the nanits allowing him to override their neural functions. They're not thinking for themselves, Alexandra whispered, horrified. He's hacked their central nervous systems. A rather crude application, Wells admitted. But effective for demonstration purposes. He gestured toward us. I need the two of you. Your systems are stable, integrated. Together, we can perfect this technology, create more like us. And my daughter? I asked, knowing the answer but needing to hear it. Wells' gaze slid past me to where Lily cowered. Children are remarkably adaptable. She would make an excellent test subject for pediatric applications. Something snapped inside me. The interface flared to life, raw protective fury channeling through it. I felt Alexandra's presence joining mine, our connected consciousness expanding toward Wells and his puppet guards. You will not touch my daughter, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the storm raging within. Wells smirked. And how exactly will you stop? He never finished. In that moment, Alexandra and I did something we'd never attempted. We pushed our combined consciousness outward, seeking the nanits now flowing through Wells' system. They recognized us somehow, responding to our shared command. Wells' eyes widened in shock as we established control over his interface. Impossible, he gasped, falling to his knees. The integration is too recent, you can't. The nanits evolved in Daniel, Alexandra said, her voice strained with effort. They're not just technology anymore. They're something new, something that responds to genuine connection. Together, we commanded Wells' nanits to release his mental hold on the guards, who stumbled back in confusion, suddenly free of his influence. Then we pushed further, instructing the nanits to enter a dormant state, not destroying them, but preventing them from further damaging Wells' mind. He collapsed fully, unconscious but breathing, as the guards regained their senses and looked around in disorientation. We need to go, I said urgently, opening the car door for Lily. Now. Alexandra nodded, already sliding into the driver's seat. As the guards began to recover, we sped away down the narrow service road, leaving Wells and the compound behind. What did we just do? I asked once we'd reached the highway, Lily miraculously asleep in the back seat despite everything. Alexandra's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. We demonstrated what makes us different from Wells. He saw the nanits as a tool for control. We used them to restore free will. Is he dead? She shook her head. Just contained. The nanits will keep his ability suppressed until they receive a command to reactivate. And who controls that command? Her eyes met mine briefly. We both do. Together. They won't respond to either of us individually. The implication hung between us, we were bound now, not just by circumstance but by responsibility. Whatever path we took from here, we would walk it as partners in this strange new existence. Where are we going? I asked finally. I have a research facility in northern Canada. Off the grid, self-sufficient. We can be safe there while we figure out our next steps. She hesitated. Daniel, what happened back there, the way we connected, the power we demonstrated, it's just the beginning of what might be possible. I gazed out the window at the passing landscape, thinking of the life I'd left behind, the endless cleaning, the financial struggle, the loneliness of single fatherhood. I thought of Lily, and what kind of future I wanted for her. "I never asked for this," I said softly. "I was just trying to help someone who couldn't breathe." Alexandra's hand found mine across the console. Through our touch, I felt her genuine regret, her gratitude, and her hope. "Sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with the simplest acts of kindness," she said. "You gave me breath when I was dying. Now we both have to decide what to do with the life that followed." In the back seat, Lily stirred slightly, mumbling something about bees in her sleep. I smiled, squeezing Alexandra's hand as the connection between us hummed with possibility. "Whatever comes next," I said, "we face it together. For Lily. For ourselves. And maybe, for everyone." As we drove toward an uncertain future, I felt strangely at peace. The janitor who had kissed a billionaire to save her life had disappeared, replaced by something new, not quite human, not quite artificial, but a bridge between worlds that had never before connected. And in that bridge lay possibilities I was only beginning to imagine. 6 months later, Lily stood on the shore of a pristine Canadian lake, launching a small drone she had built with Alexandra's guidance. Her laughter echoed across the water as the device skimmed the surface, collecting samples for her latest science project, a study of microplastics in remote waterways that was already generating interest from environmental researchers. Behind her, Alexandra and I sat on the dock, our hands linked, interfaces synchronized as we remotely monitored the progress of Project Renaissance, our revised vision for human-AI symbiosis that emphasized consent, gradual integration, and ethical guidelines. The compound that had become our home housed a growing community of carefully selected scientists, engineers, and thinkers who shared our vision of technology as a tool for human advancement rather than replacement. Wells remained in a specialized medical facility, his nanite still dormant, his mind slowly healing from the traumatic integration. Someday, perhaps, he would understand what we were trying to build. Until then, we continued our work with the knowledge that power without compassion was merely another form of destruction. "Daddy! Alexandra! Look how far it went!" Lily called, waving excitedly from the shoreline. At 9 years old now, she had flourished in this new environment, her natural intelligence nurtured by minds who saw in her the future they were working to create. I squeezed Alexandra's hand, feeling the familiar warmth of our connection. Through it passed not just data but understanding, not just information but emotion. We had discovered that the most powerful aspect of our technology wasn't the knowledge it contained but the bridges it built between separate minds. "She's going to change the world someday," Alexandra said, watching Lily with the same pride I felt. "She already has," I replied. "She changed ours." As the sun began to set over the lake, painting the water in shades of gold and crimson, I reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a simple act, a janitor performing rescue breathing on a billionaire having an allergic reaction. In saving Alexandra's life, I had transformed my own beyond recognition. In sharing breath, we had created something entirely new, a future where human connection remained the most powerful technology of all. "Ready to go in?" Alexandra asked as Lily began packing up her equipment. I nodded, standing and pulling her to her feet. As our eyes met, the familiar blue glow reflected between us, no longer foreign or frightening, but simply part of who we had become together. "Ready," I said. And I was, for whatever extraordinary chapter awaited us next. And that concludes our story. I hope you've enjoyed this journey of transformation, connection, and possibility. Did you anticipate this ending? What do you think awaits Daniel, Alexandra, and Lily in their future together? Please subscribe for more stories like this one and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support and feedback mean the world to me as a writer. Thank you for reading.